Thank you. Actually, my name's Joanne and I'm using my boyfriend's computer and I'm calling from Bournemouth in England.
Great, go ahead.
I have ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, which no doubt you've come across, John, and probably lots of people who are listening in are aware of this condition because one of the things that it's suggested we do is a mindfulness practice. And you did mention earlier about chronic pain, and I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience of how powerful this practice has been for me.
Please.
My condition with ME, which is, for people who don't know, is a multi-system disease. It's a dysfunctional disease of the neurological, immune, endocrine, energy, metabolism, so it affects the whole body. As some people are affected mildly, some people are affected severely. They're completely bedbound, tube fed, and people do die from this illness as well, and it's very, very poorly understood, as many invisible illnesses are. And so I'm in bed at the moment. I've been in bed probably I don't know, I've lost track of time actually, as you do when you're in bed a lot of the time. But something happened to me recently that was really terrifying, and I needed to call 999 emergency services because I was losing consciousness and I was alone. And my coordination was so poor. I was struggling to hold the phone, see the numbers, even understand how to get help. And eventually I managed to, somehow press these numbers. And while I was trying to make this emergency call, because I believed I was dying, I was losing consciousness, not being able to make the emergency call made me start panicking. So I started hyperventilating and I went into a really severe, I can't remember exactly what the word is, but my whole body then was paralyzed. So typically when you hyperventilate really badly, it's to do with the blood vessels. You've got not enough carbon dioxide and the blood vessels dilate, so the hands often claw in like this. But I had it so severely, my entire body was paralyzed and stiff as a board. So I had the phone here on my chest, and I could hear the person on the other end of the line, but I couldn't speak because everything was gone. I was completely helpless and, barely able to utter what the problem was. And I knew I needed to breathe deeply. And I heard you. I heard you saying that as long as you're breathing, there's more right with you than there is wrong with you. And it was at that point that I managed to begin to get control of the breath, because when you're hyperventilating, you're supposed to, cup your hands or breathe it into a bag or something. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't move. So I had to do it, from my heart, I suppose. And it worked. So I heard you, I heard your voice, and I managed to, slow my breathing down enough that I could actually start making myself eventually understood. And after some time, the paramedics and my boyfriend turned up, and it was it was like a nightmare come true to be in this state of paralysis and having nothing but the breath. But I felt like this was a story worth sharing because it works. Being able to focus on the breath really does work. And I suppose my question is, there are people who are much, much worse than me. I mean, I'm sitting up in bed talking now, but for a couple of weeks afterwards, I was struggling to speak at all. So there are people who are living this disease in this level of severity day in, day out. And I've joined since I've been bedbound, and I've realized how terrifying it is to be so vulnerable, to be so incapacitated, that I don't know how I've done it, but it must be this practice and it must be these sessions that have given me the strength to reach out. And I've started a project. I've started 2 projects from my bed. One of them is a Healing Hearts project that I've been doing via Instagram, where I've been asking people to make hearts and send them to me. And I'm hoping this will end up being a traveling exhibition. I used to be an art teacher before I became ill. And I'm very interested in the healing power of art. And the other thing I've started is a YouTube channel. I don't know how I've done it. I never could do it when I was well, so I don't know how I've done it while I'm not well, but I want to reach out to people who are in bed, who are bedbound, and help them find a way to express visually. Because when you've got no voice, when you can't make any sounds and you can hardly move, you can't get out of bed, when this lockdown's over, there's still going to be millions of people who are in bed, who never go out, who never see their friends, who never see their family. And I've got to do something for them. So I can't remember what my question was, but all of the questions that I've had questions, lots of questions I've written down. They've all been answered by you or by other people. And I know that all the questions are inside me, but
before you ask the question,
yeah,
I'd just like to stop for a moment and just appreciate the enormity of what you've shared with us, and how beautiful it is that you remembered at the key moment some voice in you, whatever it was, remembered what you'd heard about there being more right with you than wrong with you, as long as you're breathing. And that unleashed something, it unlocked something at a moment when, things couldn't have been worse in a certain way. And you see, that came out of you. You may have heard it from me, but that's of no use hearing anything from me or any other teacher unless it somehow is digested and metabolized inside you. And often that happens without our full awareness. Well, it's like virus transmission, only it's a positive virus. It's a kind of virus of liberation, so to speak, of a real potential for taking your situation, challenging as it is, and then learning how to live with it, in it, and not be imprisoned by it. That's what MBSR and MBCT and all the other mindfulness-based sort of programs around the world are really about. And I just want to bow to you for everything that you've recounted and how much creativity seems to be inside you that just absolutely wants to come out, in spite of the fact that your body is in a condition at the moment, at least, where it's not behaving the way you want it to. And just wonderful. I'm so appreciative that you got the microphone.
Thank you, Jon. And I wanted to thank Vicky, if she's listening, because I did do a course with Vicky, and I've been meditating for many, many, many years.
What's Vicky's last name?
Smysek. She's an MBSR teacher. I'm sure she's there. Thank you. Because just prior to this, I had a really, really severe case of hives, urticaria. If anybody's ever had that, it's torture. You're itching from head to toe. It feels like you've been scolded. You can't get any sleep. And I spoke to her one day when I was really, really struggling with this. And she gave me some reminders. She reminded me to get back to the practice. And I was able to sit for an hour and not scratch myself. And that's difficult even when you've got a little bit of an itch on your nose or something, but
almost impossible.
Yeah, but because when you've got hives, scratching them makes them even worse. And I got to the point where I could sit and have flies on my face and not let them bother me at all. And it's interesting what you say about not preaching the practice, but doing the practice, because my niece and my stepson have both seen me sitting there meditating with flies landing on me and crawling around my face, and wonder how I do it.
Yeah, well, they're not going to forget that. And, nieces and nephews can learn an awful lot by just watching.
Yeah.
So just to say, you don't have to have a question. I mean, if you do have a question, that's fine. But this is in some sense been beyond question or answer. It's just.
Well, actually, there is a question. But I think I know the answer. So my question is always, how do I share it? How do I share the practice with people who aren't interested, who are dismissive, who don't want to know? Or
you can't do that.
No.
You can't. It's in a sense the wrong question.
Yeah.
If you're asking, how can I be a vehicle for helping other people to get in touch with their own beauty, then there are an infinite number of ways. But you have to start where they are, not where you are. Otherwise, you're just selling people something. Oh, mindfulness, this is what you got to be doing. And then you become a mindfulness salesperson, which is horrible. It's like the complete opposite of what mindfulness is all about, which I've been stressing is a kind of love affair with wisdom, with compassion, with ethics, with deep insight, and ultimately the discovery of who you are as a complete being. So from that point of view, there's no obstacles except in your own mind. And so we have to watch out for our motivations to want to help people by thinking that we know better than they do what they should be doing. You just can't do that with people. But if you befriend them, then sooner or later, there's a kind of, I've said this before, there's a positive contagion to this mindfulness that people want to know, how come you're as relaxed as they project onto you that they think you are, especially if you're bedridden, you're dealing with your own chronic condition and everything. And I think your insight about mindfulness-based art therapy, or whatever you want to call it, that's huge. And there are people out there doing that kind of thing. And you can find that very easily on the web nowadays. You can find anything on the web in no time. And there are people who are actually doing that kind of thing. And you may find some of them inspiring, because some of them I know personally, and I'm very inspired by them. And ultimately, it's like you have to find your own way with a capital W, and your own work with a capital W. And that's a big and beautiful adventure. And it might have very dramatic effects on your
Well,
relationship to your own condition.
But this is the thing that is so strange for me, that the most ill I've ever been seems to be the time where I've found the answers that I've been searching for, because I didn't know how to reach out to support other people that I know are suffering with this condition and are much
And
worse than me, and I didn't know how to do it.
And now you do, right?
And now I do.
Okay.
From facing that horror. So, and it's the practice that's enabled
Well,
me
I think
to do it.
I think you've received your karmic assignment.
It seems like it.
You know, mission impossible if you choose to accept it. So go for it and have a wonderful time with it, and you know, let it do you more than you doing it. And I think you'll find that in remarkable ways, it may just be healing, not just for everybody else, but for yourself, even more than anybody else. Anyway, you can report back to us, because probably we'll still be here in years from now or months from now, who knows? But deep bow to you, and thanks so much for, you know, coming on board with that
Well,
and
thanks for
sharing it with us.
listening.
And I hope you feel better, you know, soon, you know.
Well, I feel like I could jump out of bed and run down the street right now,
We may
John.
actually watch you do that. Okay.